The Young Dolph case, straight drop sentence to life in prison. What's next in the case? In the case of rapper Young Dolph's tragic murder, one of the suspects, Justin "Straight Drop" Johnson, has been sentenced to life in prison. Johnson was convicted in connection with the fatal shooting of Young Dolph, who was killed on November 17, 2021, inside of Makita's homemade butter cookies in Memphis, Tennessee. Straight Drop, whose real name is Justin Johnson, was arrested after a nationwide manhunt and charged with first-degree murder, along with other related crimes. Johnson, along with his co-defendant, Cornelius Smith, was accused of planning and carrying out the shooting that took the life of Young Dolph, whose real name was Adolph Thornton Jr. The murder sparked outrage among fans and the broader community, especially given Dolph's influence and contributions to the Memphis music scene. The investigation into Dolph's death also brought to light various connections between the suspects and the larger criminal environment in Memphis, leading to a lengthy legal battle and significant media attention. As of the sentencing, Johnson's conviction resulted in a life sentence, meaning he will spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case remains a sobering reminder of the ongoing violence in some urban areas, as well as the loss felt by Young Dolph's family, friends, and fans. The murder also brought attention to the broader issues of violence in the hip-hop industry, where many artists face threats and conflicts, sometimes leading to tragic outcomes. Young Dolph's death continues to spark discussions about street beefs, the challenges of navigating fame, and the impact of systemic issues in urban communities. Background on Young Dolph. Young Dolph, born Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., was a beloved rapper and entrepreneur from Memphis, Tennessee. He was known for his independent approach to the music industry, as he famously refused major record deals in favor of building his own brand. Some of his popular songs include Preach, Get Paid, Major, and his Rich Slave album. Dolph was also heavily involved in his community, where he often gave back, particularly to underprivileged youth. His untimely death shocked the hip-hop world and his fans, as well as the Memphis community, which had long supported him. The murder of Young Dolph. On November 17, 2021, Young Dolph was shot and killed inside of Makita's homemade butter cookies in Memphis, Tennessee. Dolph had been a frequent visitor to the bakery, which became a spot where he was well known for supporting local businesses. That afternoon, Dolph went to the store to pick up cookies for his mother when two gunmen in a vehicle shot him multiple times, ultimately causing his death. The murder was brazen, occurring in broad daylight, and it left many questions about the motive and the identity of the assailants. The investigation and arrests. Immediately following the murder, Memphis police and federal agencies launched an investigation into Dolph's killing. It didn't take long before the authorities identified Justin "Straight Drop" Johnson as one of the key suspects. Johnson, a local rapper who had a history of criminal involvement, had previously made social media posts that seemed to celebrate Dolph's death. In the months following Dolph's murder, another suspect, Cornelius Smith, was also arrested. Smith was believed to have been involved in the shooting, either as an accomplice or as the one who disposed of the getaway vehicle. Both Johnson and Smith were charged with first-degree murder and other related charges. Johnson, in particular, had been on the run for several months before he was eventually captured. Authorities issued a nationwide manhunt to apprehend him. Johnson was finally apprehended on January 11, 2022, in Indiana after being tracked by U.S. Marshals and other law enforcement. He was later transferred back to Memphis to face charges. The investigation into the tragic murder of rapper Young Dolph, whose real name was Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., began immediately after he was shot and killed on November 17, 2021, outside of a popular cookie shop in his hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. Young Dolph was well known for his independent approach to the music industry and his philanthropy, particularly in support of his community. His sudden Death sent shockwaves through both the music industry and Memphis itself. The shooting took place at Makita's Homemade Butter Cookies, a business Dolph had frequented regularly, leading many to believe that the assailants had targeted him specifically. Investigators quickly gathered surveillance footage from the scene, which showed two suspects in a white Mercedes-Benz shooting Dolph as he entered the store. Despite the public outpouring of grief and the strong desire for justice, the case was initially met with challenges, as the motives behind the killing and the identity of the shooters remained unclear. In the weeks following the murder, the Memphis Police Department and other law enforcement agencies began to piece together the events leading up to Young Dolph's death. They discovered that the two men responsible for the shooting were suspects with a history of criminal activity. The investigation took a major turn when it was revealed that the suspects, Justin Johnson, aka Straight Drop, and Cornelius Smith, were connected to the crime, with law enforcement agencies uncovering a possible link between the murder and a long-running feud between Dolph and other figures in the Memphis rap scene. The police also found that the suspects had made efforts to flee, which intensified the urgency of their apprehension. Johnson, who was also wanted for a previous shooting incident, went into hiding after the murder, further complicating the investigation. The breakthrough in the case came in early 2022 when both Johnson and Smith were apprehended and arrested. Johnson was captured in Indiana in January 2022 after a nationwide manhunt, and Smith was arrested shortly after. Johnson's arrest was significant because it marked the resolution of a long and highly publicized search, with law enforcement and the public closely following every lead. During the investigation, authorities also discovered that Johnson had connections to other violent crimes in Memphis, and his involvement in Dolph's murder appeared to be part of a larger criminal enterprise. In the aftermath of the arrests, further revelations came to light about possible motives for the murder, including ongoing disputes and competition between rival factions within the Memphis rap scene. Young Dolph's death was a stark reminder of the tensions that sometimes exist in the world of hip-hop and the dangerous consequences of unresolved conflicts. While the arrests of Johnson and Smith provided some closure, many in the Memphis community and the hip-hop world continued to mourn Dolph's loss. His death underscored the often perilous intersection of fame, wealth, and street violence. As the case continued to unfold in court, questions about the broader context of Dolph's killing remained, including the role of the Memphis rap scene in perpetuating cycles of violence. Despite the arrests, the tragic loss of Young Dolph left an indelible mark on his fans, family, and the community he had so deeply supported. The motive behind the murder. The exact motive behind Young Dolph's killing remains somewhat unclear, but there were speculations about ongoing conflicts in Memphis street culture. Some reports suggested that the murder was part of a retaliatory act or related to rivalries that Dolph had been involved in. There were also rumors about personal vendettas and possible links to gang activity, though no specific motive was confirmed by authorities. Young Dolph had been the victim of a shooting in 2017, where he was shot multiple times but survived. He was vocal about street life and beefs, which led to some concerns that his lifestyle might have made him a target. His death sparked a wave of grief and outrage, particularly within the Memphis community, where Dolph was seen as a beloved figure who had risen from the streets to success without compromising his authenticity or his roots. The motive behind his murder, however, remains a subject of intense speculation and investigation, with several theories being put forward. One key factor believed to have contributed to the murder is the long-standing tensions between Young Dolph and other local figures within the Memphis rap scene. Dolph had made no secret of his ongoing rivalry with rapper Yo Gotti, which had escalated over the years through diss tracks, public comments, and indirect jabs. While there is no direct evidence to link Gotti or his associates to Dolph's murder, their feud has been cited as a potential motive. Many believe that the animosity between the two rappers was not merely professional but personal, fueled by Dolph's independent success and refusal to sign with major labels such as Gotti's label, Collective Music Group, CMG, Dolph had built his empire without relying on the traditional industry structures, which was seen as a direct challenge to the status quo. Within Memphis rap scene, this independence, paired with his defiant and outspoken nature, might have made him a target for those who viewed him as a threat or obstacle. Another possible motive for Dolph's murder could be related to the violent and often dangerous environment of the streets. Despite his success in the music industry, Dolph had deep ties to the Memphis community and never distanced himself from the hardships and realities of street life. Many of his lyrics referenced his upbringing in South Memphis and the violence and struggles he faced growing up. This association with street culture could have played a role in his death, as his wealth and fame might have made him a target for robbery, jealousy, or territorial disputes among those still entrenched in the streets. There have been reports of incidents where Dolph's car was shot at in the months leading up to his death, suggesting that his presence in Memphis had attracted unwanted attention from rival factions. Additionally, the nature of the murder itself, Dolph being ambushed at a local business rather than in a more private setting, suggests that the killers may have had a personal vendetta. The fact that he was gunned down in broad daylight and in a public space implies that the act was not random but rather a targeted hit, possibly as a form of retribution or retaliation. As of now, the full extent of the motive behind Young Dolph's murder remains under investigation. Multiple suspects have been arrested in connection with the killing, and law enforcement continues to piece together the circumstances that led to his untimely death. However, one thing remains clear. Dolph's murder was not just the result of one single motive, but rather a culmination of several factors, including personal rivalries, street politics, and the inherent risks of being both a high-profile artist and a figure who maintained strong ties to the very community from which he came. The aftermath and community impact. Young Dolph's death left a massive hole in the Memphis music scene and the global hip-hop community. Known for his generosity and for being a voice for the underdog, his loss deeply impacted those who knew him personally and professionally. Dolph's legacy, his family, friends, and fans have continued to honor his memory, and his music continues to be a source of inspiration. He had just started to build more philanthropic ventures, including his Paper Route Empire record label, which he founded, and he was involved in various community projects. He is remembered for both his musical talent and his acts of kindness. Various memorials, murals, and tributes to Young Dolph have been set up in Memphis and around the country. The city's response to his death was a blend of mourning and reflection, with many fans hoping for peace in the city and a reduction in the type of violence that led to his untimely death. Young Dolph, a Memphis-based rapper and entrepreneur, was tragically shot and killed on November 17, 2021, in a shooting outside Makita's Homemade Butter Cookies, a local bakery in Memphis, Tennessee. His untimely death sent shockwaves through the music industry, his community, and the world. Dolph, born Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., was known for his authenticity, self-made success, and philanthropic efforts, often reflecting on his roots in Memphis and using his platform to uplift the community. His passing not only left a void in the music world, but also sparked widespread reflection on violence in urban communities and the impact of a beloved figure's death on local culture. In the immediate aftermath of Young Dolph's death, the reaction from his fans, family, and peers was one of disbelief, grief, and outrage. Many fans took to social media to express their sorrow and frustration, while others organized memorials and vigils in his honor. The impact of his loss was felt deeply in Memphis, where Dolph had a strong connection to the community, known for his charity work, particularly in the form of donations to schools, local businesses, and families in need. His death left a significant void in the philanthropic efforts he had championed. Dolph was also a strong advocate for financial literacy and entrepreneurship, often sharing his journey to success with the aim of inspiring others, particularly in underserved communities. He frequently used his platform to promote self-reliance and empowerment, offering a blueprint for others in his neighborhood to follow. The tragedy also brought renewed attention to the persistent issues of violence and gun crime in Memphis, which has long struggled with high rates of homicide and gang-related activity. Young Dolph's murder was seen as another stark reminder of the cycle of violence that affects many cities in America. The fact that he was gunned down in broad daylight in a place that held sentimental value to him and his family added to the feeling of loss and disillusionment. The murder sparked discussions about the dangers faced by young black men in the music industry and the broader impact of street culture on artists who rise to fame from disadvantaged backgrounds. Dolph's death became part of a larger conversation on how the industry and the community can combat the glorification of violence and protect the lives of artists who contribute so much to their neighborhoods. In the wake of his death, the Memphis community experienced a surge of solidarity, with many residents rallying to honor his legacy and continue his work. Some of the most poignant tributes came from local schools, where Dolph had been involved in various charitable initiatives, including giving away turkeys for Thanksgiving, funding scholarship programs, and donating to youth sports leagues. His legacy as a mentor and motivator in the city lived on as community leaders and organizations worked to continue the projects he had supported. In addition, fellow artists and celebrities paid tribute to him, both in music and through public statements, acknowledging his influence in reshaping the Memphis music scene and his role in giving back to the community. Young Dolph's death, while a tragic and painful event, also prompted a broader dialogue about the need for systemic change in addressing violence, economic inequality, and the safety of black communities. His legacy as a figure who rose from the streets to achieve mainstream success while giving back to his community remains an inspiration to many, and his passing underscores the ongoing struggle faced by many who grow up in environments marred by poverty and violence. Wider implications. Young Dolph's murder highlights several broader issues in urban America, particularly the culture of violence in certain hip-hop scenes and the challenges faced by artists navigating street life and fame. Many rappers and hip-hop figures have become victims of violence, often related to personal or professional conflicts. Dolph's murder also brought attention to the state of gun violence and the criminal justice system in Memphis and similar cities, which have been dealing with rising crime rates. His case further raised awareness about the risks faced by musicians who rise to fame while maintaining connections to their roots, which may sometimes involve street organizations or criminal elements. The murder of rapper Young Dolph in 2021 carries broader societal implications that extend far beyond the world of hip-hop and the entertainment industry. Young Dolph, known for his entrepreneurial spirit, advocacy for his community, and his successful independent music career, was tragically gunned down in Memphis, Tennessee. His death, while a personal tragedy, also highlighted ongoing issues of violence, systemic inequality, and the impact of celebrity culture in modern society. On one level, the case illuminates the deep-rooted culture of violence in many American urban communities, where the prevalence of guns, gang affiliations, and territorial disputes often escalate into deadly confrontations. Young Dolph's murder was not just an isolated incident, but part of a larger pattern of violence that plagues underprivileged neighborhoods where economic instability and a lack of opportunity can breed desperation and frustration, sometimes manifesting in criminal behavior. Additionally, the case underscores the difficulties of breaking the cycle of poverty and crime, even for those who achieve success through music or other forms of entertainment. On a broader cultural scale, Young Dolph's murder highlights the intersection of fame, public perception, and personal safety. As an artist who was vocal about his roots and his commitment to helping his community, Dolph was admired for his authenticity and independence in the music industry, where many artists are trapped in the system of major record labels and corporate control. Yet, his high profile also made him a target. The dangerous mix of fame and notoriety, along with the perception of wealth, can turn public figures into symbols of envy, prompting violence and exploitation. The case of Young Dolph also speaks to the tension between the streets and the music industry, where young artists, especially Those who come from impoverished backgrounds face the constant threat of violence as they navigate their success. While some may view these conflicts as mere rivalries or disputes, the consequences are far more severe when they involve guns, gang ties, and the potential for fatal outcomes.